Hi, this is Brian Vollmer of the band Helix, and you are listening and looking at The Metal Voice.
Welcome to another edition of The Metal Voice. Jimmy and I were running wild in the streets last night.
Yes, we were.
Because there's no rest for the wicked.
Absolutely not.
And it's a long way to heaven, Jim.
Yes.
So if you haven't figured out who our special guest is today,
then rock you.
Then rock you.
Not F you, rock you.
We're here with Brian Vollmer, master of the Planet Helix universe.
How you doing, guys?
All right. This is a pleasure, Brian.
Brian, a composer, singer, a vocal coach. So let's just start off with
chief bottle washer and diaper changer.
That's right. Let's start off just at the present. Let's start with the present. You're a vocal coach. How did you go from being a singer of Helix to a full-time vocal coach in Ontario?
That's correct. Well, back in 1976, I was diagnosed with having nodes in my vocal cords, and I was told that I would never sing again, and I went to a voice coach up in, he taught out at Hamilton at that time, Edward Johnson, and he taught me the old Italian method of singing called bel canto, and it took me years for my voice to repair itself, but eventually it did, and eventually I went on to get gold and platinum albums. Around 1988, I found myself, after all these gold and platinum albums, I found myself basically on the street with everything I owned in a suitcase, and so I went back to Ed and I said, listen, how can I, can you teach me to be a teacher? And so he taught me to be a teacher, and I went up there from London to Fergus, Ontario, almost every week for 15 years, and then I graduated from the University of Ed, and now I teach.
Okay, that's an amazing story. So this is a classical method, that's what you were telling me beforehand. It's a classical method, right? And very few
classical
people...
method of singing, but it doesn't matter if you're singing rock or folk or jazz. The same principles apply to how the voice is created.
Okay, so let's think of some heavy metal singers out there. And we're not here to trash anybody or put anybody down. We're just talking about vocal technique. Who would you say in the heavy metal world has a fantastic vocal technique other than yourself?
I have no idea, because, well, the reason I say that is because just because someone has a good sounding voice is not an indication the person actually knows how to sing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could be a complete accident that you have a good sound to your voice. I think that the biggest, how can we say, example of someone is singing incorrectly, though, is when they start getting sore throats, losing their voice, getting nodes.
Right.
And there's all sorts of singers like that out there today. Adele just had her throat operated on, but Julie Andrews, Tom Jones, Engelbert Humperdinck, Rod Stewart, all those people have had nodes in their vocal cords.
Right.
So it has nothing to do with the quality of their sound. It has to do with whether or not they're singing correctly. If you sing incorrectly with the voice, the difference between a human voice and an instrument is that unlike an instrument or a guitar, for example, you go buy another guitar string. Once you screw up your vocal cords, you're fucked.
Yeah. Well, someone like Iron Maiden's Bruce Dickinson. I mean, he's had a solid voice for more than 30 years. I mean, he must be using some sort of vocal technique. What do you think?
Well, I've watched Bruce Dickinson sing, and I've often wondered, how he can sing that hard and not lose his voice. But there are exceptions to the rules, guys that just learn how to sing around it or whatever, right? Or maybe he does have some sort of vocal technique.
Yeah.
He's a freak of nature, Brian. It's as simple as that.
Well, there are some, right? But I actually don't know how Bruce Dickinson sings that hard night after night after night. He's a clean living guy, which I know.
Which helps, right?
And he's in good physical shape too, if you look at the guy.
Yeah, I mean,
he's into fencing and things like that, so that all contributes to the voice, because actually your body is your instrument. So in the case of Bruce Dickinson, I just taking a guess, I would say that he probably has a little bit of technique, and he keeps himself in good physical shape, which is a large part of it.
So what's the first thing? So let's say Alan went over to your house for some vocal lessons. What's the first thing you would teach Alan? Is it clean living? Is it Is it, working it from the diaphragm? What's the first thing you look at a student?
I don't know. If you got to be taught clean living, you're a hopeless case.
What's the first thing you say? Look, Alan, enough with those chocolate bars. Like, what is it? What is it?
The first thing you learn when you learn bel canto is how to lift your throat.
Okay.
All problems in the voice come from tension around the vocal cords, so that's why you see guys like or not Bruce Dickinson, but say Brian Johnson or Michael Bolton singing, and you see all that muscular tension there down around their Adam's apple.
Yeah.
It's because they're trying to push their voice. So you learn how to lift your throat, and what that does, it takes the tension off the vocal cords.
So in other words, what you're teaching is, complete tension-free in the neck, and as far as you can push the voice. I mean, do you recommend, you look at somebody like Jeff Tate, right? He used to hit these super high, high notes, right? It's like a 4-octave range and super lows. And now he's, over the years, it's kind of like lessened, right? He's lost a lot of his range, and they had to replace him in a sense, right? And I'm not trying to knock Jeff Tate. I love Jeff Tate, and I love their music. But you can see over the years there's been some sort of what do you want to call it? Decay or abuse, yep. Maybe. Do you also take in professional singers? Like, hey Jeff, here's
my card.
Here's my card, and I can help you out. Do you take professional singers as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
In fact, Morgan and Mercedes Lander from Kitty came to me for vocal lessons. They didn't want to change the sound of their voice. They wanted to be able to sing that type of metal night after night and not lose their voice, because being able to sing night after night meant money. A big motivating factor in the music business. So they came to me, and I taught them how to sing with their throat up, take tension out of their vocal cords, and they never had voice problems after that.
Let's just go back. I got the Breaking Loose, and I got, of course, White Lace and Black Leather on H&S Records. How do we go from H&S Records to Capitol Records with No Rest for the Wicked?
Well, H&S Records stood for Helix and Sype, and then on the No Rest for the Wicked album, we got signed to Capitol EMI.
Heavy Metal Love, I remember first hearing that song. It wasn't actually the video that I saw. It was actually a news broadcast. I don't know if you remember this, Brian. They're just talking about how rock videos are helping to sell albums. So they had Helix on. I don't know if you remember this interview or not, Brian. And they also had maybe like Platinum Blonde, and how Canadian artists are getting their music out through rock videos. Do you remember that time period when MTV just sort of took off?
I remember the time period. I don't remember that particular interview, but we were one of the first bands to have videos out.
Yeah.
That's why the Heavy Metal Love video got such a lot of airplay, because it was the first year for MTV in the United States, so it went right to heavy rotation, which is unheard of for a heavy metal band nowadays. But we were coming into places like, I'll never forget coming to Washington, D.C. for the first time, and there was a lineup over a block long to see the band. I went, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, back then, was the music scene happening in Canada? Was it easy for a metal band or a hard rock band to make it big?
I think it's a lot tougher nowadays. Back when we started out, we had the whole bar circuit, and we lived the life. We didn't make much money, but we had a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
That was a motivating factor in our case. We went right across the country, and it was a great life. You really developed your chops out there on the road, learned how to play. You matured slowly as you got bigger, and much healthier environment. Nowadays, bands play like once or twice a month in their hometown. They get a record deal, and suddenly they're out on the road,
And then you got onto Walking the Razor's Edge, and you had the big hit like Rock You, right? What did the record company actually push you to get sort of that anthemic song? I mean, you had Quiet Riot with Come On Feel the Noise. You had Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It. Those big back vocals, those big cheering back vocals. Was there any push from the record company to push you in that direction, more of an anthem-like song?
No, not at all. In fact, the biggest hit of the band's career was actually Heavy Metal Love.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
But Rock You came to us through Barry Bergman, who was a manager of Bob Halligan in New York City, and he connected with Tom Tremuth, who helped get Helix's first deal with EMI.
Okay. And
Tom brought the song to us. At that time, we had a couple of songs with the word rock in it. I think My Kind of Rock, You Keep Me Rockin', and we thought we had too many rock songs. We didn't want to use Rock You, and Tom and our manager Bill Seif said, no, you got to do this song. You got to do this song. So we put it on stage for the first time at the El Rosa Villa in Columbus, Ohio, and people just freaked out from the very first time we ever played the song, and it never left the set. We've played it every night since.
So the reaction was instantaneous when you played that song.
Yeah.
Still is today.
And then you had another...
it's like our signature song. But like I said, the biggest song of the band's career was actually Heavy Metal Love.
Yeah.
But the song we wrote about Joan Jett, a lot of people don't realize that either.
Oh, it's about Joan Jett? No, I never heard that.
I had no idea. All right, there we learned something new. Look at that.
Is this like a faraway fantasy, or did you meet Joan Jett and decide to write it?
Fantasy.
The girl, okay.
All right, I mean, so did money start coming in back then? I mean, after you've had 2 albums that are, successful, did you actually start seeing money from Capitol Records?
Well, the band did as a corporation, but we didn't personally. The money was all funneled back into the band because our goal was always to become a world-class band and to rise to the top, which is a pretty big dream for a couple of guys from Kitchener, Ontario that really, we didn't really have an amazing amount of talent. Most of the stuff we got was through hard work.
All right, so went back to the history of Helix. Deep cuts the knife. Suddenly, you're this, superstars in Canada, but now you're superstars across the world. How did you feel? I mean, when that song broke so big.
Well, actually, we've been building up to that. Heavy Metal Love was a big hit for us in the United States to start off.
Yeah.
And so was Rock You, and Rock You was huge for us in Europe. And when Deep Cuts the Knife came out, it became a #1. Helped Long Way to Heaven album become a #1 album in Sweden.
Yeah.
So, once again, we gradually built into it, so we were able to handle whatever was coming our way, success-wise.
And then, you still had the hits coming. You had Wild in the Streets, which I really love that song. Probably one of my favorite Helix songs.
Great video.
Yeah, great video. It's another example of a fantastic video pushing the album. And then the 90s came in, grunge movement. I mean, so all this hard work and all these years you put into the band, when did it all start, going grunge? When did you start feeling, oh, guys, the industry's changing,
We weren't dummies. We knew that music goes through cycles every 5-6 years, so we knew things were coming, but we had other things that happened to us as well. Paul died.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Same time period. Brent left the band, so there's more going on in our lives than just that.
Let's get back to us. How do we go from international selling artist to, like you said, being with a suitcase with all your belongings out on the streets?
Well, easy, because we never ever made more than, I think, $200 a week in the band. We always funneled money back into the band. So when suddenly music changed, and then we lost our label, we lost EMI around the same time period, right?
Right.
And then dates started to dwindle and dry up, and when we weren't even playing every week. So think about it.
Yeah.
We had nothing saved up from all those years. In fact, we probably had gone into debt.
Wow.
For sure.
And then I went through a divorce. Okay. I gave my wife the car, which was a beat-up shit box of a Granada, I think it was. And the shitty friggin' furniture we had, and we split, so I had everything in a suitcase. I was couch surfing. So when people tell me about being homeless, I know what it's all about.
Wow, it's
I
great.
lived in a friggin' flop house in Kitchener where you paid $20 a week for, with a common friggin' bathroom and kitchen with a bunch of friggin' drug addicts / alcoholics.
And but so now how do you go from that to running Planet Helix? I mean, what was the steps? Some of the quickly, getting back on their feet, getting stuff where you're in charge of your whole company. It's you. Planet Helix is you.
Well, there was a couple things in my life, going and becoming a teacher, but also meeting my wife, Linda, my second wife, and she really turned my life around, and we ended up getting a house here in the East End of London, and then it just went from there. The house was actually a concept I had of being larger than life. That is, having one aspect of the band amplified through something that really didn't even have anything to do with the music, which was the house.
Okay.
In other words, Brian Vollmer lived at this mythical place called Planet Helix, which our webmaster come up with for the website, Planet Helix.
Sure, sure.
And we made it an actual physical place, which was the house, and we redid the whole house with architectural antiques from Southern Ontario. So the house is very unusual. We've had cribs here. It was a big hit in cribs and got us mileage all over the world. But you know, the London paper's been here. Much Music has been to the house to interview me, and so, you know, we've exploited that part of the image.
Yeah, and you're touring. You're still touring, right, Brian? I mean, I've seen the Canadian dates all across Canada, everywhere and anywhere except Montreal.
We're playing New Year's in Kitchener, and then we're in Casino, New Brunswick, first week of January. Then we're in Spain in May.
Wow.
We're in Ottawa in February, and we're working on a new album.
And yes, the new album. So what's going on? When do you expect the new album to be released?
Well, right now, the only holdup we got is getting Sean Kelly available to lay down the rhythm tracks, and then we're off to the races.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? Like, the songs are written. It's just a matter of getting and recording them. I would imagine we're going to start in January. I would like to think by March.
Okay, good.
And what kind of direction are you looking at? You know, hard rock and blues like always, or?
Well, I never look at an album like that. I just go write songs, and it takes a direction of its own. But this is definitely going, as the title suggests, towards a heavy blues
Okay.
album.
And what's the title?
Bastard of the Blues.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that definitely suggests it.
That's a blues.
What's keeping you from coming to Montreal or any Quebec dates? we
I know you told me this the other day.
Oh, yeah? Well, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Last time in Quebec was great. It was up in Quebec City.
Okay. Yeah.
With Exciter, I think it was. Not Exciter, I can't remember now. But anyway, that was a great gig. The time before that, we got ripped off. It was in Montreal.
Oh,
yeah.
That would
explain it. Testament, the same thing happened with Testament. Is there anything you want to tell everybody out there, all your fans?
Well, not really. That we got a new album out and are coming out, and we're doing the same old that we always did.
Yeah. How about if anybody's interested in vocal lessons? Do you take amateurs, or do you go with semi-professionals, or just the whole spectrum?
As long as it got pitch.
As long as it's got pitch. And you could do it.
Got pitch, and they pay the price.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alan, you're out. You're out, Alan.
No, my checks bounce.
The Desire, of course.
But he's got soul. Alan's got soul, so maybe that counts for something. All right. So if you're interested in some vocal techniques, but not just vocal techniques, the vocal technique, bel canto. Is that pronounced right?
Bel canto.
Bel canto?
Canto.
Yeah.
Bel canto.
Beautiful voice.
Beautiful voice. If you're interested, Brian Vollmer is a teacher of voice, and he's got the technique for you. Could be an amateur, could be semi-professional, could be professionals. Also, new album coming out in 2014. We're very excited about that, Brian.
Me too.
And hopefully he'll come on tour in the U.S. How about the U.S.? Any U.S. dates?
No, the U.S. is a different kind of animal because their work permit, I find, is very restrictive.
Okay.
And it's so much bullshit to go through the work permit. So, you know, we did the Monsters of Rock, which is basically like playing the States, although you're in international waters.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause everybody in the boat's American pretty well. There's a couple people from Europe, and that's about it.
Okay.
Canada. So we just do the boat cruise. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
You're going to do it again this year, correct?
No, next year.
Next year, okay.
All right. What about your website? Is it www.planethelix.com? Is that what it is? Yeah,
That's correct.
Is that where you also get emails for your vocal coaching? Is that the same
You
place?
can email me through that and get a hold of me, yes. Or you can go to, you can also check out what I teach by going to brianvollmer.com.
Okay.
Excuse the hokey pictures, but the info's there.
Well, it was a real pleasure speaking to you today, Brian. It's been years. We've been fans going back to the early 80s since the opening chords of Does a Fool Ever Learn? And really glad that you were able to connect with us today and we were able to have this interview with you.
Nice talking to you too. Next time we'll get the old Skype happening.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
There's some technical problems, but
Some technical problems, but it's okay. You're going to send us some pictures, and we're just going to display them in the back of us.
You missed the strip tease I was going to do.
we missed that
go.
shirt. That shirt is unbelievable.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.